Welcome, everyone, to our VWEC Metaverse Expert Series. We're glad to see you and have you join us today for our interesting, amazing presentation and discussion. Everyone is invited to an extended chat with our speakers at the end of the deck for an informal conversation after the presentation. For those of you who are new, our website is in the chat. And you can find VWEC on many social media channels. And also there's a link to those as well in the chat. After our presentation, we will try, if we have time, move over to the deck for a more informal conversation and a social time as well. We are pleased to offer our expert series presentations in both text and chat. Text for anyone who may not be using voice is shared on our YouTube live stream, and you can find this in the sign in front of our stage as well. Oh, and speaking of signs, we would like to know how you found out about our events. Our survey plant has just a quick survey that is a great help to us. If you could fill it out, and feel free to send along with any comments you have. We would like to thank you all for joining us for this very interesting presentation, and I'm happy to introduce our Metaverse Expert Series, Doctors Lucía Morales and Valerie Hill. They will be presenting on building knowledge block by block, learning in Minecraft and Minetest. Dr. Lucía Morales is an educator, academic innovator, and research at Technological University Dublin and the European University of Technology, with extensive experience across economics, finance, and education. She is published widely, leads international research initiatives, and mentors doctoral students while pioneering new approaches to interdisciplinary knowledge creation and dissemination. Dr. Valerie Hill is a metaverse librarian serving as a coordinator of the virtual world's education with a career spanning 30 years of teaching, research, and practice. She is passionate about digital citizenship and metaliteracy in our meta-modern era and has presented at physical and virtual conferences as well as researching the impact of technology on life and learning. So take it away, Lucía and Val.
Thank you so much. So I will start the presentation. So in terms of our project, so initially Val and I met a few months ago, I would say over a year and a half by now, I think. And we started working together and looking at how we can introduce children into the use of metaverse and how we move forward with them. So, Val?
Yes, thank you, Marie, for that kind introduction. And there's just a picture of us and our avatars. We won't repeat our introduction, but thank you so much for being here with me today, Lucía. It's been great working with you. So we'll go ahead and move on to talking about our project. When Lucía and I began working together, we started exploring opportunities for children. And we started working in a blocky world very similar to Minecraft, but it's called Minetest. And the project that we're going to share with you today shares a collaboration with children across continents from the United States and Ireland. So I'll tell you what that looks like. But first, a little background on why and how we got this project started. In my school library, and I can't believe now that it's been a decade since I was in a school library where I had a group of fifth graders with a Minecraft club, and they built a digital citizenship game. At the time, I was completely unfamiliar with Minecraft, but the kids weren't. They were experts. So I facilitated their build and helped them keep on task so that they could learn about digital citizenship and share the potential for deep learning in the metaverse. Just as many of you right here in Second Life utilize virtual worlds for learning. The kids were doing the same thing. They used the same language. Then I published a research article with this project to share about it, and that led to the collaboration with Lucía here in Second Life, as we shared an interest in how children can learn in virtual environments. the potential for serious learning is documented by research and goes beyond simply slaying zombies and leveling up in a game. And I'll put a link to the research article in the local chat. My publisher allowed me to upload it into Google Docs so that I could share it. Now, we also want to point out that the project began thanks to a virtual world colleague that some of you may know, Olive Tree Lighthouse. Olive Tree knew a lot about Minecraft, and she told us, Lucía and myself, that we might want to try a free open source world very like Minecraft called Minetest. Olive Tree then introduced us to Dakota Redstone and Carol Rainbow, her colleagues, and the three of them taught us all the basics of mining, building, collaborating across distance, because we all lived in different countries around the world. So we utilized Discord for our voice. And we owe a lot to Olive Tree, who sadly passed away a year ago. So why did we pick Minetest? Well, it's free, and who doesn't love free? We didn't have access to Minecraft at our institutions, even though many schools now do offer it. So we went with this open source free world. Also, part of digital citizenship for kids is learning about their digital identity and digital footprints, and certainly learning not to friend strangers across the world. And in Minetest, the kids could meet people that they did not know. So we were very cautious with our small group of students. This was the perfect opportunity to share digital citizenship in action. Minetest has had a name change since we started, and now it's called Luanti, but it still works the same, and you can still download it. It's still free. However, this fall, actually starting tomorrow, we are moving to a closed world that we have access to in Minecraft education, where the kids can learn through collaboration without meeting people that none of us know. Even though we all know kids can get around that, and they often do, we are modeling digital citizenship as we teach it. So, Lucía, what about our learning framework?
Okay, so in terms of the work that we're doing, we brought together different elements, and the one that you have at the top in the blue circle is circular pedagogy. This started 2-3 years ago. Is a new approach that we are developing as part of our research in the European University of Technology. It's a research group focused on education, learning, and the pedagogical framework. The connection here is that initially we developed this for higher education. And as we start working in this context, what we did was, with Val, we started to look at digital citizenship, metaliteracy, and how they start to overlap. And we start considering that that framework is not limited to higher education. So this starts very early, and we need to be aware of it. And the whole concept of circular pedagogy revolves around an interconnected relationship between the teacher, researcher, and the learner or a student, where we share that three roles, and it doesn't matter if we are an adult, if we're a kid, or if we're a researcher, or we have the title of teacher, or we have the kind of position of a student. Those roles are rotating. Val, maybe if you explain a bit how the connection with digital citizenship and metaliteracy.
Absolutely, Lucía. I really believe that the circular pedagogy aligns really well to metaliteracy and how the kids can choose a lot of different roles. We'll get into that later. And the whole concept of embedding digital citizenship while they decide what it is they're learning. It's very much circular, going from teacher to student, constructing this. It's all of this is happening behind the scenes at the same time. These learning frameworks really well overlap. So I'm going to put those up on the slide one more time just to show you. They interlap as they are just interwoven as we move to embed digital citizenship and new literacy, which is easy to embed in a world like Minecraft. And we're going around through the different subject areas that the children are passionate about. So it's a very interactive way to learn.
And on that, we move to this picture. So when we started interacting with the kids, Val and I were at some point discussing ourselves and the feedback that we were giving to each other on. I am quite a directive person, and I make a decision at one point, like when Val was in the class, I will observe, and I didn't go in with the avatar because I was kind of directing. I felt I was directing too much the kids, and especially that created like a negative type of element because the creativity of the children was affected. So at that point, I realized that I have to step back and let that go, because I was there, the student. The kids were flying and I was catching up. I was not able to move as fast as they were in terms of building. I was not able in terms of kind of following up, and I was learning from them. So at that point, I become the student in the class, but because my label was as a teacher, I was impacting on do this, do that, do the other, and they start to disconnect because I tried like different projects, let's do this, and that didn't work because the children wanted to build their own kind of projects. And on that, Val and I started to let's then give them the flow. So another element that we consider in terms of the current sustainability dilemma, and also how we're framing our working context relates to which extent we're considering the human-centered approach, the human-centered design, and how we place ourselves within our planet, our resources. And you have this slide here demonstrating this. We're part of it, and the children have a very good understanding of this. While in higher education, what I will see is that we believe, or we have this idea that whatever resources are there are to serve us, while we're part of it, and we need to cherish it, and we need to preserve it. And this is something that comes natural to the kids. So we have this sustainability element guiding the project, and also the sharing that comes naturally with the student. And as we go into higher education, we start to see that somehow get lost because we enter into competition, sometimes very unhealthy competition, and that collaboration and exchange it start to be distorted. So in the next slide, we start to consider how we promote different disciplines, or how we promote the development of different skills. Working with the children, again, this is more natural because they move from one topic or one subject to another. While when you work in higher education, especially in my context, if I'm doing economics, I'm constantly talking about this topic, and I'm not connecting as I could towards other disciplines. So this is another innovative idea, like circular pedagogy, that came from the research group that we have, that to which extent do we need to bring together those disciplines and start thinking about integrated skills, and how do we do that? So in the next slide, we elaborate a little bit further in terms of what this means. And the idea is that you start linking through your own area of expertise. As you reach college, you do that, but it doesn't mean that you lose the ability to communicate and have a broader context with the other disciplines. So this becomes quite evident when you're trying to work with people, again, from the engineering, from social sciences, from STEM related fields, because we have different languages and we start to struggle. And I observed that with the children, this is not a big problem, because they can jump from one topic to another. If they're coding or they're using robotics, if they're using the maths, they are not differentiating, they are easily connecting. But when we move to higher education, that division becomes like a wall. So in the next slide, what we have is how can we break then this wall? Because you have then the experts, you have those disciplines, we have become into those silos, and then we have this picture. Somebody's there very happy with the whole formula, whole context, but whoever is listening to them is not understanding. And this happens with every discipline, from the educational field towards, again, medicine, economics. And I believe that at this point, we need to be able to have some holistic elements that allow us to connect, that allow us to bring a new set of skills that help us to collaborate and help us to progress in terms of, again, bringing different ideas to solve problems or to create new knowledge. And this is what the children do in a natural way. So the next slide provides a context where Val was bringing new, again, ideas and disruption in terms of what I was working. Val?
Yes, the kids in our club, they're naturally learning new literacy, and that takes place right in Minecraft, although reading and writing are still certainly foundational to literacy. Literacy expands upon that today with metaliteracy, a new term for literacy in digital culture, where kids today can produce content themselves as prosumers, meaning they're both producers and consumers of content and media. Now, note on this slide the roles around the outer circle. The kids are constantly choosing between roles that they can juggle: a collaborator, a producer, a publisher, researcher, participant, communicator, translator, author, and teacher. Yes, they're peer teachers. Lucia and I witnessed many of these roles exhibited by the students as they were actually teaching us the commands, the code, the vocabulary, and more, while we were facilitating and embedding metaliteracy and digital citizenship alongside them. And I'm glad Lucia already mentioned it was sometimes hard for us to step back, close our mouths, and just let them take the lead as we facilitated with the learning. Children today can move quickly and fluidly through these many roles as metaliterate learners, peer teaching each other, collaborating together across the globe. And as I mentioned, we use Discord for voice, emphasizing privacy and security by reminding them of the need for passwords, not giving out our real names when there may be strangers, all of those digital citizenship elements behind the scenes. All subject areas of the curriculum can be embedded and enhanced as the kids plan, write, and build, both alone or together. This is collaborative learning through constructivism. And on this next slide, you will see that digital citizenship has become essential to all of us. Yet today, many educators do not know how to teach the skills needed. It's slipping through the cracks. In Minetest, we can simplify many of the elements of digital citizenship, bring the language down to their level, so that kids can explore digital identity, digital footprints, privacy and security, and more. But Lucia and I learned through observation of the kids at work, they do not embrace what we build, but they learn by building themselves. Sharing content with them and then allowing them the opportunity to construct their own meaning through building is powerful. So we plant the seeds, the vocabulary, the meaningful foundational elements, and then they make them grow. Lucia will talk a bit about circular pedagogy.
So here we go back to that framework, and as I mentioned already, this started just with the discussion between or among few researchers where we were querying, should we divide these roles? So if you're a researcher, that means you're in a particular box. If you're a student, you're a learner, you have that label, and you have to sit there and somebody's going to teach you. And if you are the teacher, then again, that's your role. So what we saw is these roles interact, and there is no a label to be giving to us. We will rotate through them according to our needs, and as well according to what our context give us. This, as mentioned, is a new framework. We initiated, if you look for it, it started in 2022, and we have built from there. So from this, we have introduced the sustainability component, inclusivity, and now we are going to try to bring that metaliteracy and digital citizenship to try to make it stronger. Bob?
So how do we connect this to primary education? Because the group that we're working with is in the 8 to 10-year-old age bracket. Well, some of the ways that we can connect to primary education is, first of all, introducing the metaverse as a serious place to learn. We already mentioned to a place to embed digital citizenship lessons in action, not just as abstract concepts. A way to really focus on new literacy skills, which is metaliteracy, and bring all of those terms down to their age-appropriate vocabulary. Facilitating the curriculum that they are actually learning, and they can bring what they're learning right into the world, the things that particularly that they're interested in and passionate about, and then provide them the opportunity for collaborative learning through constructivism. And then, in the next slide, we'll tell you about who else we've brought in to share our work in Minetest. Lucía and I have been sharing our research with some adult learners and educators as well. For example, the VR Exploder Club, led by Marie here, they took a visit to our Minetest and they took a tour of the club. Often, as we mentioned, the kids are the teachers and they help us learn the interface. We found that adults can struggle because there's so many different interfaces in various worlds across the metaverse. It's different to walk, to teleport, the building tools, the inventory, they can all be different. And you'll notice in this slide some of the people that you may know. I see Krayatya here, Marie in the picture, Bethany, Fran, and if you look close, they're standing under the Selby Evans Lookout Point. So, bringing all of our communities together so kids can see these are real people in worlds. In addition, on the next slide, we also brought in some pre-service teachers so that they could see, how do you teach in the metaverse? It's not just letting them go play in Minecraft, because the first thing people want to do is just build their house and then protect it. But how do you bring curriculum in? So this slide shows some college students who plan to be teachers exploring the metaliteracy domains and the builds created by kids 8 to 10. The kids lead the way as metaliterate learners, and we document our research through field notes, images, machinima videos, observing how the kids learn. Our goal was to share the potential for immersive learning to educators, because there's a lot of misunderstanding surrounding gamification and how virtual environments can be used for serious learning. Which leads us to the next slide, the Student Challenge, the VWEC Student Challenge. At the 2025 VWEC Student Challenge, which is all about the tagline, Serious Learning in the Metaverse, our Minetest Club shared their project as the youngest participants, and the kids were really proud of their certificates. Since Second Life does not allow anyone under the age of 13 to enter, we shared the recordings of the final ceremony and the prizes, and they could look over our shoulder to get a glimpse of Second Life, which they found fascinating. Which leads us to Lucía is going to give us some examples of the children at work.
So the work that we did took different paths. We started, as we say, going and try to get our house, and that's how I was learning, and then moving around, trying then to move into developing something that the kids related to sustainability. And through these, we moved to a particular context where we wanted the kids to interact with the library. So this is a building that we have in Minetest, where you can see different corridors where the children added information, where they explain concepts. You have, for example, in the second picture on the right, a fun fact corridor where they were talking about prime numbers and also the planets. And this was learning in terms of research, because they have to find the examples, then they have to write the text, then they have to explain it. And this again requires a lot of interaction with resources. In the next slide, we have another example of the activities that we were developing with the kids. And this one was trying to explain the connection between nature, in particular plants, that they were finding there in Minetest, and why they need water and why they need the sun. So they were elaborating and explaining, providing those little contexts to understand this link. The next slide offers another example in terms of the economics one. I couldn't resist. So they were talking and how they could get a shop. And one of the kids was very entrepreneurial, so she moved around and got a shop in the main market, and she was making loads of money, and she was kind of sharing that. And I thought, okay, maybe you want to build a shop within the library, and they did this. So I took the opportunity to start introducing them to basic economic context. So this was something that I didn't plan, but as I saw the shop straight away, again, I'm biased. So I was, oh, here we can talk about supply demand, why prices goes up and down, because they have to add prices to the products they were selling. And we provide explanations in terms of how this small economic system was working. That led us to them kind of, okay, but we have to spend all the money. No, you have to save some of it, because then you can use it later. So they were finding, do we have a bank? And then they end up finding within the system an ATM, and they put it there, and they start understanding the concept of saving and even borrowing. And that was the dimension of economics that initially I didn't expect we will go in that way. Even barter system was explained to them and how they exchange. Another example in the next slide was brought by one of the kids that wanted to know more about chickens. So they love the eggs. You could get more chickens through the eggs, and then they start exploring how do we take care about chickens. So it was a creation of a shelter, and you have to give them water, you have to give them food, and then they did as well a little bit research in terms of finding out interesting things about these animals. So that's what you see on the walls. They start to kind of provide these bits of information to make it a little bit more engaging. The next slide offers another example of the activities that they were introducing. So this was an aquarium, and the idea here was to understand the vital role of water. And at the top of this aquarium, they also built together. This was a very interesting part of the project, because the three children were trying to introduce a system to keep water clean. So they have turbines, and they have all of it to make sure that the water didn't get dirty, because they have turtles, they have fins, and it's a very big scale. They were trying to protect water, and this also was to or to have the plants, the trees, to have beehives later they were selling in their shops. So we start connected because we have the sustainability, we have the economic aspect coming in, and then we have all the skills through the metaliteracy coming into play, and then we start to have visitors. And there we have the digital citizenship, the security, because the kids started to talk to people that we didn't know. We have examples of conversations that were not appropriate for them. And we started to teach them, well, be careful, you cannot trust everybody, even though you think is a friend and you are into this context. You still need protocols and elements to keep you safe. The next slide is another example of how the project and this was a kind of a good reminder, I think, for Val and myself, in terms of my case. Well, let's just keep adding content, let's keep keeping them busy with these economics elements. But many times they demanded, like, oh, we want to play, and this was a swimming pool, and they wanted just to jump in the swimming pool, play soccer underwater. At some point they created as well a kind of throwing balls together, and it wasn't all the time just go in and do learning. They want to play. Have few experiences around that, but if you want to share maybe some here as well.
We have some really great memories of the kids really seriously building, but then also they'd go off and build something just for fun. And when they were playing underwater, playing soccer, it was really funny and they had fun. And we found that they used a lot of the same terms that we as adults use here in Second Life and in other virtual worlds. The lingo of, trolling, understanding, that there are bad players out there, their inventory, they're very adept at inventory management, learning how to code and helping each other troubleshoot. So it's amazing how similar it is to those of us who had to help each other learn the interface in Second Life. And then we want to let you know where this is headed, because all of the slides that you've seen have come from the world of Minetest, that is a free open source world. But now we have access to Minecraft Education, which many of you know was bought by Microsoft. And it features many educational worlds, and there are many educational games embedded in the Minecraft Education version. We want to point out that there are a lot of school districts that offer Minecraft education at their schools, through the schools, in grade levels K through 12. However, a lot of the teachers have not fully understood how do you teach in a world like this. And this is where we feel like our research can be of help. We have plans for the students to work both alone and in collaboration, synchronously and asynchronously, and that's all in the works as we move now to VWEC Minecraft Club. And we also hope to have our students enter the VWEC Spring 2026 Student Challenge. If you look on this slide, the world that we're entering, in the distance, that big mountain there, we're sort of calling that AI Mountain. The kids are very knowledgeable about NPC bots. And often in Minecraft, you can create an NPC and provide it with instructions to enhance your learning. And this is a great opportunity for us to introduce AI so that they understand the difference between an NPC character that's not a human character and AI and what that is, and they can slowly learn that, and we can embed the ethical use while they're having fun. Anything else you want to add, Lucía, about our upcoming plans? I know the kids are excited because they took the summer off.
Yeah, I like to share a brief example, and that's happened today. So I was finishing my class, my formal economic class with master's students, and I have over the years introduced an approach where it's more or less what we're doing here with the children. They are the ones to do it. I am guiding it and kind of giving the direction, but they want to do things. And now we have children that are playing into these spaces, and then they're going to go to secondary education or higher education. And I see a detachment in terms of how then we interact with them. And the example that I'm sharing is after my class today, the feedback was, oh, this is a class that is very hands-on. We have to do a lot of things. It's very engaging and it's very interesting. We don't have to sit here just looking at somebody that is telling us everything to do. I say, yes, that's the point. You're the ones to make all the decisions. You can ask me a lot of questions if there are doubts, and I guide you. I show you the technology. I show you what mistakes you can make, but I let you the space to make the decisions. And this is what we saw as well with the children. When we start, or at least when I started trying to direct them and trying to tell them what to do, they somehow disappear. One goes to their own house, the other one is kind of in a different space, and then they come back. So you were losing that connection. So I think that's what is happening as well in terms of higher education. They are very much engaged with technology, and I think that the work that is being done in this context, it can help not only how to teach the kids, it can also give a different perspective to how we manage higher education, because they are asking for a different type of approach. Val?
Yes, absolutely. And as we move forward, another thing we want to consider is archiving the student progress. How do we assess their progress? How do we archive their progress? And so, Lucía, what about the idea of creating a digital library?
Yeah, this is one that we're working with the children, and we're looking at how this repository is going to help them to identify their own kind of footprint in this technological context that is becoming more dominant and in some cases quite aggressive. And for the kids to understand that it's not okay that everything you do, you're going to upload it, you're going to make it visible for everybody, because once you get older, you might not want to be related to that content, that you might not be able to make it disappear. So that's a kind of a curated repository that we need to embed through this library, so that the kids understand that it's not okay to just have everything you want around, and that brings back ourselves to what is to be a digital citizen, and what do we need to embed in this new library context that become useful and helpful for the kids. Bob?
Yes, absolutely. So you can see this kind of research is very new, because we're exploring. It might even be exploratory research. We're in it together, researching with the kids. And so as we work on this, I'll move to the next slide. We're thinking about our research, and it's a new way to research together across distance, observing, working with the kids, exploring. And Lucía, you want to tell a little bit about our upcoming research paper that we have in the works.
So what our next step is to take this presentation that we have today, and also all the work that the students, or in this case the kids, have done, and the students, and I include myself and Val into that space, because as we say, through the circular pedagogical framework, what we're looking at is how we learn from each other, and how we're going to provide that information in a more kind of formal, open research kind of resource that will be available, and that anyone that is an educator and want to learn independently if you're teaching children or not, because we're looking from different dimensions. So that's what we will come in our next project.
Yes, and I think it's really important to remember that we all are learning this together, but we have to remember they are yet children. And so we have to make sure that we're bringing everything to an age-appropriate level, but still guiding and facilitating them. And that's fairly a new way to teach. It builds upon the physical world, the foundations of literacy, the physical classroom, but kids today live in digital culture, and we need to find new ways to introduce all of these tools to them, and that's our goal. So we do want to have some time for questions. I already saw one in the chat when the slide came up about our digital library and perhaps archiving the kids' work. The question was, what about teaching the kids what archiving is, archival? And that is really important, because how many of us have a lot of physical notebooks, you know, from our learning, or physical photo albums, or physical, you know, writing tools, pen and paper. Kids are doing a lot with digital tools, and it's important for them to understand how to archive their learning journey. So that's something we can work on together. We've put here in the local chat our contact information. Should you be interested in reaching out to us later about our project? But we do want to open up for some questions, comments, feedback. Anything else you want to add, Lucía, as we watch the chat for a question?
Yeah, I think that we are very open in terms of the whole learning process. From my perspective, what I'm trying to kind of put forward is how we're going to bring an educational approach that takes into consideration that children are working differently, and that the traditional approach have benefits, but at the same time, if we don't innovate, if we don't give a little bit freedom to them to explore, to bring their own ideas, their creativity, they start to disengage, and that is something that you experiment in terms of dropout rates, frustration from the children, and then you see it as well in the young learners in college, universities, where it's a disconnection. How can you make this more attractive and at the same time innovative, independent learning, collaborative? So this is, I think, the bigger vision around what we're trying to do.
Does anybody else have more questions? Oh, Charlotte's asking, how does this project fit in with the students' other learning activities?
I can mention that they brought a lot of the things that they were interested in learning. As a school librarian, I saw that kids, even as young as kindergarten, have passions. They know what they want to come in and read about. And it's the same in Minecraft. They are passionate about what it is they want to go and do. So they bring that, as well as what they're actually learning in the classroom. They'll bring that in as well. Do you have any examples, Lucía, of what it is that they want to build that aligns to what they're learning?
From my side, what I saw was the exploration. Like at many points, they didn't know how to do certain things, and they start looking for a lot of information, and they start contacting people within the game, and they start doing their own research. And at that moment, it was that realization that they are very resourceful. They know where to go. They wanted a shop. They created a shop. They put it in the shop market, in the big one. They contacted the developers. They wanted to get factories. So they were moving at a very fast pace, where I thought, well, we're going to teach them how to build a house and make it beautiful, have these things. And the project at one point was moving at a very fast speed. That, how are you doing that? How are you getting into those codes? Are you doing that in the school? No, we don't do any of these in the school. But here is very interesting, because we can do X, Y, and Z, and then go then Googling and finding more resources on how to do what they wanted to do. And that was my learning there. Like, you couldn't put a wall on, just do this house and keep it there. Many other projects emerged from it.
I also see on that same line of thought, Shiloh asking what you mean by age appropriate and the limitations of that. By that we mean, you can't just say, just go wherever you want online outside of this. We have permission forms for the parents to sign. We want to be very responsible in what the kids have access to outside of where we are. But not only that, we also want to bring the terms down to their age appropriate level. There's a lot of academic jargon, especially, with a lot of the learning frameworks in digital citizenship and also metaliteracy. Those domains, metacognition, cognition, behavioral domain, affective domain. We can simplify that. Metacognitive domain becomes think. I can think. Cognitive becomes I can know. I know this. And the affective domain is how do I feel? Do I have empathy for someone? We have an example. When one of them trapped the other, they lost all of this beautiful armor that had taken a long time for them to mine and build, and then they went and got that and gave it back, because it's like you don't want to hurt each other's feelings. That's the affective domain. How do you feel? And then the final one, the behavioral, what can I do? Bringing those terms down to their level is age appropriate, rather than us just giving them all the terms of what it is to be metaliterate. We're trying to teach them that in action. Any other questions? This is a very small project across the globe. So no, they were not members of the same class, although were there a couple in the same class, Lucia?
Yeah, there were two of the kids that they know physically and they share the same class, and the difference between the connection with the one that are not there is that they can discuss and plan, but at the same time that didn't prevent them to collaborate, to share, to meet new people. So we have different layers there of communication, interaction, and curiosity, and that was very nice to see. At the same time, one realization as well goes to the concepts. At one point I was trying to create something around the sustainability, and we were explaining about habitats, we were explaining about ecosystem, and some of those words were complex, and the question was there, what do you mean with this? You have to simplify it. I remember that at one point it's like, why are you overcomplicating with those words? So it's what Valie's saying, can you make it simple? And that's like, oh, that also happened in the classroom when you have adults, but the problem there is the adults or the kind of older learners won't dare to tell you, because then they might think, well, I should know that, and I don't know, and they don't ask. That you lose it. While with the children, the constant looking for clarification, explanation is what needs to kind of dominate in a class, because otherwise you don't know if they're getting what you are actually trying to explain to them.
I see the question about how do you get students involved in a project like this? We chose some students that we already know, and we know their parents, so we could get the permission forms. When I was in my school library, I also had permission forms from the parents, but they all went to the same school and would come. They wanted to come all day if they had free time with their teacher. They wanted to come in at recess, but I couldn't, have them all the time in the library. Most of the time it was an after-school club. So there's lots of different ways for teachers to utilize these environments, whether it's a school club, an after-school club. But for Lucia and myself, we're looking at this more as researchers, not as the educator in a classroom. So we're observing so that we can help other educators understand best practices for bringing kids into these worlds beyond simply getting their armor on and killing the monsters. How to make it serious learning in the metaverse.
Let me ask this question, because I can't type fast enough. I hope I don't have a wind turbine with the fans. How did the school systems react to the findings that you have? And secondly, are they willing to integrate this type of work and modify the curriculum in the elementary school? at this
Oh,
point?
that's a great question, Shiloh. The problem is teachers realize kids need to know digital citizenship, but they don't know how to teach it. So my role in my project was to guide them to build this game with those elements embedded, and they were excited about it. But a lot of teachers don't have time to do that. I did that in the school library. People come to me all the time and say, you need to write digital citizenship curriculum. Well, I can't add that to my plate. By the time I wrote digital citizenship curriculum, it would probably be out of date with AI rapidly, evolving. And then to get all the school districts to adopt that would take a long time. So our research it's really kind of one-on-one. And I think a lot of you that are teaching and learning in the metaverse realize that you've had to do it on your own time. You weren't paid to do this. Your university didn't, provide you the space to do it. A lot of us had to do this on our own time because we understand the next generation needs us. They need us to help them see how education is rapidly changing, and so is life. You look around you, everyone is on a device. Kids need to understand digital citizenship. So our research paper maybe will help other educators how to do this, but it's a one-on-one. It's not a whole district. A district may give you Minecraft, but they're not actually going to embed exactly how to use it. You've got to learn that on your own.
Yeah, and that takes time. So again, I am a person that works a lot with technology, that use everything that I see new in order to support the students. But when I started in this context, I didn't have a clue. So I have to go spending a lot of time. It was a steep learning curve. And the way that I see it is if you don't get to understand how the kids are moving, how they're using technology, and even the concepts, metaliteracy, digital citizenship, any of these, it's not familiar at all in my current teaching, in my job, working with postgraduate students, economics, finance. If you use this language, they don't know what you're saying. And I think that they need to, because this goes around in terms of what is coming, and is coming again aggressively with all this content, AI, the whole technological development, and we're into it, but you don't know what digital literacy is. You don't know what the basic contents around it are. You don't know how to use your own information and present yourself in your Facebooks or LinkedIn's or TikToks, or you name it. So how you do that? So you need to learn from early stages, but you also need to embed that within higher education.
Back to how teachers can actually use this in the classroom. If your school district offers Minecraft, it's educational in itself because it's the Minecraft Education Edition. There's a brand new game out about AI detective or something, and little detectives go around and learn. So there are educational games built in, but what the kids really love is building it themselves. And the teachers have to figure out how to allow that and facilitate what the kids can do and build themselves, as well as just going in and playing a game. So I think that's been great, and that's the reason that the VWEC Student Challenge has been exciting for our kids, because they get to show off what they build themselves. There's an interesting question, Lucía. How much writing is being used to follow up on projects by the students? They do have the opportunity to make little books, and we're hoping that there'll be more of that in this next project, with writing books, also writing what an NPC bot might use to instruct and guide through what it is that the immersive experience they're building. But I'll have to say, what's really been an eye-opener for me is that, we think of writing as being learning the alphabet, learning to print, learning handwriting, learning to construct a sentence. They're constructing code, and they know more about code and commands than I do. So there's new literacy emerging. I don't want them to lose handwriting and writing sentences, and so there's a balancing act there and that's metaliteracy. What will literacy be in the future, and how can we preserve the foundation of literacy?
Yeah, and in terms of recourse of the projects, we introduce them to creating videos, talking about what they're doing. And that was another kind of surprising, because when they were moving with the technology, recording the video, explaining what is going on, it was very interesting, because I was trying to do it in the context of Minetest, and it took me a lot of time, because I was trying to get the proper image. I was trying then to coordinate, put the boys, so I was dividing the task, but I was doing it. When we did it with one of the children, what it happened is that it was very natural. It took the control, went into it, started moving the screen very quickly, and then explaining what was happening. So it was only twice we try, and I was like, okay, it has done it just in 2 attempts, and I have spent days trying to let's get the proper image, let's get now the voice, while this was something done very, very fast.
And we think it's also a really good way to promote critical thinking, because all of the time they're having to really think and analyze where they're going and the purpose of it. So it naturally lends itself to teaching that.
We just have a couple of minutes, but we do want to, these have been great questions. Anyone else have something that they wanted to ask? And in case you notice that my voice is different than Marie's, this is Ellie. And Marie did have to leave for a First Life student challenge at their university. Great. Well, I don't want to cut you guys off, but I do want to thank you, Lucía and Val. I think there's a lot of interest for what has come out of this project. We appreciate you sharing today, and it certainly is an example of how virtual worlds can provide experiences that cannot be done in the physical world that are engaging, immersive learning. So in closing, I'd like to thank everyone who came today. If you would like a copy of today's slides, you can get them on the board on the side of the deck to my right. Look for the sign for this presentation. You can just click it, and Val and Lucía have been kind enough to share their slides with you. Our next expert series will be History in a Virtual World, Conquest and Tragedy, featuring Andrew Wheelock, our good friend Spiff Whitfield, and that will be on October the 10th at 1 p.m. SLT. Then I'm going to put more in the chat just so you can have this handy. This is our social media and other places to contact us or to watch what's going on. And again, thank you so much, Lucía and Val. This is super interesting and very relevant, I think.
It's a lot of fun.
And fun. I love that.
I can't wait to start again.
I love it. I so love it. That's so great. So hope everyone has a great Friday and a wonderful weekend. Thank you all.